Good evening, Mr. Bond fans. Here are some words I didn't think I'd ever be uttering on the channel, but I'm here today to talk about a brand spanking new Raymond Benson novel set within Ian Fleming's James Bond timeline. If you've been keeping up with my James Bond continuation novel review series, you will know that I have been a huge fan of Raymond Benson's contributions to this 007 universe. I have found his books to be incredibly exciting, engaging, and they are clearly written by someone who is incredibly knowledgeable and has a great deal of respect for this character and for the creations of Ian Fleming. I haven't gotten to the end of my review series talking about his books just yet, but Benson's tenure writing for Bond seemingly came to an end in 2002 with the Dine of the Day novelization, and I didn't think I had that many stories to go until what I thought was going to be the end of Benson's Bond universe, until now, that is. In March 2025, Ian Fleming Publications announced it was going to be releasing a new Felix Leiter-centric novel penned by Raymond Benson himself, which was absolute music to my ears. Ian Fleming Publications have been releasing and announcing several Bond-adjacent books and series over the last couple of years. There are the Kim Sherwood books. I haven't read those just yet, but I know that they are set within the James Bond universe. They've announced a Q spin-off that's coming, I believe, later this year, and then, of course, we have this new story dedicated to Felix Leiter himself, The Hook and the Eye. Now, the release of this is quite interesting, I think. The novel will be released in full later this year in print, but Ian Fleming Publications are releasing the story as episodes that you can get on your ebooks. So this is leading up to the print release. The first drop, if you will, I guess that's the term, is episode 1. So they're being released as episodes which contain multiple chapters. In the case of episode 1, it also contains the author's note. So in episode 1, you get the first 4 chapters of this story and the author's note. The idea behind this, Ian Fleming Publications have said, is to recall the serialization of classic pulp fiction in the early 20th century, and the paperback will follow in full on October 2nd. I think it's a very fun way of doing it, and certainly after reading the first few chapters of the book, it makes absolute sense to be releasing it in this way. There are a variety of purchase options, whether you want to just buy the ebook, or pre-order the paperback, or do the both at the same time. The first full chapter of the book is on the Ian Fleming Publications website and free to read there. They've also uploaded a video where Raymond Benson himself reads the first chapter of his book, and yeah, it's very exciting to be talking about a new Bond thing. It's fun to see the promotion for this and what have you. Ian Fleming Publications has very kindly sent me a PDF of the novel, and this is honestly the first time I've ever been granted a sneak peek at a novel prior to the release, and especially given that it's a Raymond Benson work, I'm very grateful for that. As of this video, I have just read the first episode in full, so the first 4 chapters, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a flavour as to the plot of the book so far and my thoughts, because, well, I'll be honest with you, I didn't really know what I was in for with this. Felix Leiter appears as a character in some of Raymond Benson's own Bond novels, so I didn't know if this was going to be a continuation of those. You know, is it Felix Leiter in modern day? Was it going to be a prequel to Felix and Bond meeting prior to, you know, Fleming's Casino Royale? Or was it going to be set somewhere in between? And given that the title mentioned the Hook, which of course Felix has in the Fleming series after the shark attack in Live and Let Die, I did suspect it would be coming after that quite crucial event, but I wasn't sure, and I kind of figured that for an author, you know, coming to Felix Leiter to have to write a story about the character, really this is, you know, the first, like, full-on Felix Leiter spin-off we've ever had. I would have thought that the easier way of doing it would have just been to do it as a prequel to Casino Royale. Do it pre, you know, his meeting with Bond, or indeed have a young Felix Leiter in a modern day setting, or what have you. I think it was quite a stroke of genius, though, to set it after that very crucial moment in literary Felix Leiter's life, that being the shark attack. So for those watching who might not know, who might not have read the Fleming novels, and so far my reading of The Hook and the Eye, I don't think you actually need to have read the Fleming stories in order to enjoy this, but I think think Raymond Benson does a really great job of contextualizing up front and recapping those important details. But yes, in Ian Fleming's Live and Let Die, which is the second novel, the second James Bond novel, Felix Leiter is maimed by a shark, and for the rest of the series he makes several appearances throughout Fleming's novels, but he has prosthesis on one of his arms and one of his legs, and the hook on his arm. This detail was not adapted in the film version of Live and Let Die, but it was adapted into License to Kill, of course. As I say, Raymond Benson immediately contextualizes the story in his author's note. So it's set in between Ian Fleming's Live and Let Die and Diamonds Are Forever. More specifically, it takes place between January 1952 and July 1953. I thought it was a really interesting choice because, yeah, like, it's something that you don't ever see in the films, frankly. Like, even after License to Kill, Felix Leiter does not appear as a character until they rebooted the series with Daniel Craig. So we never really, even though this is quite a crucial detail of Felix Leiter's literary presence, and one that continuation novel authors, maintained. In Gardner's series and Benson's own series, the character does have these prostheses. And I think it's really cool that this story is clearly going to be expanding on that, because the novels never really have the time to, the James Bond main series novels never really have the time to go into it in much detail, because obviously those are James Bond-centric stories. Felix Leiter is helping James Bond out on his missions and what have you. And don't get me wrong, this isn't like, the diving bell and the butterfly kind of thing, it's Felix is going to be on a mission, he's going to be investigating a mystery as the story goes on. But I think it's something interesting for the character. Like, yeah, he was a CIA agent, and now he's had this attack, this life-changing incident, or mishap, as it's referred to in the story. And yeah, particularly in the 1950s, his prosthesis likely to put him at a disadvantage. He's, undergoing, physical therapy and that kind of thing, but he's having to teach himself how to do basic things that he used to do really easily, like shoot and drive and what have you, even just like shaking people's hands. And I think it's a really interesting place to be picking up with the character. I think it adds a lot to the story to know that the hero is going through this stuff. The story's written as a first-person perspective, and at first I kind of wondered if we were supposed to be reading like Felix's diary entries, because like the dates are at the top of the chapters and what have you, and it's written from the first-person perspective, so it's me and I and all this kind of stuff. But then the writing, it seamlessly dips in and out of dialogue exchanges and what have you. So it's not quite like you're reading Felix Leiter's diary, but the kind of the narration, I guess, it does feel like you're sort of reading dialogue from like a 1950s noir detective, and the story so far, it's got such a noir vibe to it that I'm really liking. And it makes sense, because of course Felix, just like in Fleming, he, after the accident, he goes to work for the Pinkertons agency, and so he's a detective. It's, it's New York. It makes complete sense. He's going to bars and drinking bourbon and branch water and smoking cigarettes and all that kind of stuff. I was totally just, I like 1950s noir, Double Indemnity, Sunset Boulevard, Gilda, some of my favorite films of all time, so I'm totally happy to be here with this vibe. Of the 4 chapters, chapter 1 is definitely and I apologize for the lack of a better phrase for this, but it is the hook for the story, basically. I mean, the opening chapter, it's in New York, and the opening line is, "I'm holding in my hand the fate of the world, and I don't know what the hell I should do with it." Which is a heck of an opening to a story, but yeah, this kind of sets the scene, and Felix has something in his hand which is of the utmost importance, it's highly valuable, and what have you, and I'm guessing that this is going to be teased out throughout the rest of the story exactly what that is. Chapter 2 then goes back in time and recaps Felix's mishap with the shark. And it really does pick up, like, in the immediate aftermath of the incident that you read about in Live and Let Die. It never gets maudlin or anything like that. The character himself keeps a sense of humor and maintains that throughout the story when referring to his disabilities, his prosthesis, I can't say that word, but it is obviously a hugely life-changing thing, and we see how it affects, obviously, he wants to go back to the CIA, he wants to be involved in the action, he doesn't want to be slowed down by these things, and then they say, oh, well, no, you can have, like, a desk job, and he's like, no, I don't want to do that, and then we end up, you know, seeing how he transfers to Pinkerton's. And then it's while he's on an assignment that he becomes embroiled in a mystery, which is really just teased at this point of the book, so I'm very intrigued to see what comes next. But yeah, I think the first 4 chapters of this do a really great job of contextualizing where the character is at and setting us up for the rest of the story to come. It's that classic kind of, like, I've said this before about pretty much every Raymond Benson novel that I've read so far, I think, but just it's a real page turner kind of thing. Like I blasted through the first 4 chapters of this. They're really I just want to turn the page constantly. There are lots of funny exchanges in this, and lots of those classic, like, you know, just nice, like, little details, just talking about the guns that Felix is using and really going into some of the detail of that, and you know, like branch water, the cigarettes he's smoking, all that kind of stuff. I think he does a really great job of establishing this character, because yeah, I've only ever experienced Felix Leiter as a supporting character in James Bond stories, so it's cool to be thinking of Felix as his own entity. In terms of visualization, I don't really have a specific actor in my mind when it comes to Felix, and I don't know if a part of this is because his prosthesis, the character post-incident with the shark, has ever been depicted on screen. You know, like after License to Kill, he's, you know, out of the series up until it was rebooted with Daniel Craig, of course, so we never really saw the character like that, and I don't know if that just lends itself kind of well to, you know, having this kind of unique visualization in my head. The character is still described physically. There's a nice bit where he has to sort of describe his own physical appearance, and I liked it, and he's very much the Fleming version of what the character looked like. Those details are consistent with Fleming's stories. There are a few, like, nice references back to the Fleming stories, of course, particularly as this is setting up the story and what have you. Whether or not James Bond will appear in this story, I don't really know, and quite frankly, going into it, it's not something that I'm going to be pondering all that much. I know that this is a spin-off from the main series books. This is a story that's centered on Felix Leiter, and I don't suppose my enjoyment of it is going to be dependent upon whether or not James Bond shows up or not, because I know as well I'm going to be covering the Moneypenny Diaries somewhere down the line as well, and then we're getting into, although, you know, I mean, Bond is still the lead character, I'm guessing, in the Young Bond spin-offs, the Charlie Higson books, but I certainly want to get to those as well. So I'm kind of, at this point, up until now, I've kind of been going through James Bond novels in chronological publication order. After the end of Raymond Benson's initial tenure, things become a little bit more kind of like offshoots. I know there's the Anthony Horowitz trilogy, but there are spin-offs and what have you, so I'm going to be talking about them because, quite frankly, it's like every time a new Bond or Bond-adjacent novel has been released over the last few years, I'm kind of like, okay, well, I'm left out of the conversation because I'm kind of like, well, I guess I'll get to reading it in like 3 years' time or whatever. So from now on, I am going to be on the channel kind of like jumping around a little bit in terms of which spin-offs novels I'm going to be talking about. It pretty much comes down to the fact that I don't want to be left out of the fun, which is, yeah, so I'm interested to know, have you read the first episode of this new Felix Leiter adventure, and what were your thoughts? You can let me know in the comments section below. In summary, I have really enjoyed what I've read so far, just the 4 chapters. I don't know if, like I say, I'm very lucky that Ian Fleming Publications have sent me the PDF of the full novel, and I don't know if I'm gonna be reading it. I'm probably gonna do that. I'm gonna stick at a 2-week schedule of reading it so I can experience it in the serialization format in which it's intended, until I get terribly impatient, of course, and then I just have to go ahead and read the whole thing. But it's like I say, I think that this episode is a really great contextualization. I think it sets up Felix Leiter really well. I'm already intrigued but as to read where the plot is going to go. So yeah, knocks it out of the park. Episode 1 is a fantastic start to this, and I am very much looking forward to what's going to come next. More Raymond Benson in the Bond world is never going to be a bad thing as far as I am concerned. So yes, please do let me know your own thoughts on this in the comments section below. I'm going to leave some links below to the Ian Fleming publication sites if you want to check out more. If you want to read that very first chapter yourself, you can do so for free on the website right now, or indeed hear Raymond Benson narrate it himself. So please do check out those links. Also below are links to my various social media pages. You can click the subscribe button and the Mrs. Bell notification button to stay up to date on future video uploads. And until next time, Bond fans, or should that be until next time, Leiter fans? So long for now.